Welcome to Louise Stories. I bring you the most gripping, shocking, and thought-provoking Reddit stories, narrated with depth and emotion. From betrayal and secrets to unbelievable life twists, every story keeps you hooked till the end. If you love crazy Reddit tales, don't forget to subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps the stories coming.
Ada for refusing to let my parents be alone with my daughter after I found out the truth about an old family friend. TWSACSAM and grooming. Growing up, Uncle Ted was always around. Originally, I played with his kids. Then one day, his kids stopped being around and Ted disappeared too for a bit. He eventually re-entered the picture, but I never saw his kids again. I once asked my mom what happened to my friends and she said they went to live with other family members. I was pretty sheltered and raised in a don't talk back household, so it didn't seem odd at the time. Ted seemed to always be around. He'd babysit me and my brother, take us places, always bought us gifts. He wasn't our biological uncle, but was close enough to our parents that he was around. Then when I was 13, he abruptly disappeared from our lives. I asked my parents what happened, but wasn't told, and basically again got the don't talk back, just move on. I was a little sad, but in time. Got busy with other things and didn't think too much of it. I'm now married with a daughter of my own. A few months back, I ran into Ted's ex-wife. I almost didn't recognize her as I hadn't seen her since I was young and played with their kids. I asked how her kids were doing. She was kind of awkward and basically said we don't keep in touch. Thought that was a little odd, but didn't want to push. I told my mom about the situation and she got a little weird. Finally, she said, I guess it's time you found out the truth. She explained that Ted had been found with CSAM. He ended up taking a plea. He served only probation and had to go on a registry. Originally, his ex-wife didn't leave him. This led to both of them losing custody of their kids and they went into the foster system, later being adopted. His ex did eventually leave him. My mom claims that Ted made a bunch of excuses, tried to say he was framed. I asked my mom if she really believed that. She admitted, no, she never did. But Ted was so convincing that she didn't see harm in letting him be around. I asked what changed and she said they cut him off when he started dating a 16-year-old while he was in his 40s. My parents were disgusted, but Ted kept parroting age of consent laws and claimed there was nothing wrong. Given I was only 3 years away from 16 at the time, it hit too close to home, and they cut things off. I was disgusted. I told my mom she was completely irresponsible. She tried to say, but he never did anything. I said no, but that's really a risk she was willing to take. I couldn't believe her. I couldn't trust her. I also wasn't sure if I could trust my own memories. I was in therapy for other things, and after discussing this with my therapist in several sessions, we concluded while I wasn't abused, I was most likely groomed by Ted, and there's a chance he was trying to get me to enter a relationship with him when I became of age. I was sick. My brother doesn't want to seek therapy and doesn't think he was being groomed, but also feels disgusted. I've spoken to my husband about this. He no longer trusts my parents' judgment either. My parents have apologized, but we feel it isn't enough. We went severely low contact, and when we do see them, they are not allowed alone with my daughter. I don't trust their judgment. They say this is an overreaction. They made a mistake years ago and corrected it. I said yes, but only after basically leaving us to be sold out. Other family says we need to be easier on my parents, and that hindsight is 20/20. Aida? No, you are absolutely not the asshole. Your parents prioritized their comfort over your safety as a child, and even after they cut ties with Ted, they never took accountability for putting you at risk in the first place. Their excuse of he never did anything completely dismisses the very real danger they exposed you to. You have every right to protect your daughter from people who have already demonstrated poor judgment when it comes to child safety. Trust isn't just given, it's earned. And your parents lost that trust when they knowingly kept a predator around you. The argument that hindsight is 20/20 is weak because even at the time, they knew something was wrong. They didn't cut ties with Ted when they found out about his crimes, only when his behavior got too close to home. That means their priority wasn't protecting children. It was avoiding discomfort. That's a massive failure on their part. Your decision to go low contact and not let them be alone with your daughter is completely justified. It's not punishment. It's precaution. They are not entitled to alone time with your child just because they're grandparents, especially when they've shown they don't take these dangers seriously. Your parents made their choice years ago, and now you're making yours to protect your daughter. You are 100% in the right. AITA for telling my sister and our parents that I don't care if she was SA'd like I was because nobody cared or even believed me when I spoke up. When I was 6, my grandfather started to SA me. I tried to speak up not long after, but I was labeled a troubled kid and a liar. So he continued abusing me, and I suffered in silence. My parents gave him so much alone time with me, while aunts and uncles would tell me all the time I was so lucky that he loved me most, and how I should be grateful he didn't hold my lies against me. My parents said similar things, but also reminded me that if I ever caused trouble again, I'd be kicked out. They told me I was just a bad kid, that I was worthless, and they'd focus on my sister who was younger by 2 years because she'd never do what I did. She'd never be as sick and disgusting as me. My sister told me she knew something was up with me and asked me repeatedly to tell her what it was. And when I did, I told her Grandpa hurt me. I was 11 and she was 9 at the time. In response, she told me I was a liar. Then she spent years saying I was a liar and saying I didn't deserve to be Grandpa's favorite. She also threatened to tell our parents what I said. When I was 15, Elle tried to end it all, and I was asked why I was acting out so much and why I was spiraling so bad. So I tried to speak up again, and I was shut down by my parents and my sister. They said things that still haunt me. Then I was kicked out. I was homeless for 4 years. I didn't seek help at any point in those 4 years. I was just waiting for my life to be over. So much happened to me, and I didn't even care. I felt disgusting, so didn't see why I'd stop it. Nobody ever looked for me. I always assumed there were celebrations that the damaged good, no good liar was gone. Things I was called by my parents and sister. My life eventually turned around, but it wasn't easy. And even though it's 10 years since I was kicked out, I feel like I still have a long way to go. A few weeks ago, my mom tracked down info about me online and reached out. She said we needed to talk and I needed to come home. Elle ignored her first message. But when she reached out again, I told her to leave me alone because I wasn't going back there ever. I was asked to at least accept a video call with her, Dad and my sister, and I said no. I blocked her, but then my sister reached out and begged me to give them a few minutes. I said yes because I was too weak to say no, and the pleading tone of the DM was gone in that call. Instead, I got jumped by all 3 and accused of failing my sister. Apparently, when I was no longer around, our grandfather turned his attention to her. She didn't say anything until a year ago, and they started looking for me then. All 3 blame me for what happened to her. They started with saying if Lyd never accused him in the wrong, he never would have gone there, and it was all my fault my sister was abused. But then they said I should have gone to the cops and protected my sister. She told me I was supposed to stop it ever happening to her. And what did I have to say for myself knowing I was responsible for her being SA'd too? The first recognition that I wasn't lying. She demanded I go to the cops and make sure he gets convicted because she doesn't want to too. After getting a little manic on the phone, I told them I didn't care that it happened to her too because nobody cared or believed me when it was me being SA'd. I said I wasn't responsible. Everyone knew and silenced me. I said she might have been 13 when I was forced to leave, but the things she said to me back then would never be forgotten. And it ended any care I had for her. Then I left the call and blocked the account and number associated with it. I also blocked my sister's social media account. But one of them created a brand new dud account to say I'm just as disgusting as I was back then, to not care about what my little sister went through. And the thing is, even though I really don't care or feel bad about it, I'm wondering if I should, and if I did turn into a monster by saying that to any victim of SA. Ita? You're absolutely not the asshole. What happened to you was horrific, and the way your family treated you was beyond cruel. They didn't just fail to protect you, they actively made your life worse, calling you a liar, isolating you, and eventually abandoning you when you needed help the most. Now years later, they only care because your sister suffered the same fate. And instead of taking responsibility for ignoring and silencing you, they blame you for what happened to her. That's completely unfair and manipulative. You were a child. It was never your job to protect anyone. That was your parents' responsibility, and they failed both of you. Your sister also contributed to your suffering by mocking and rejecting you when you were vulnerable. While she was a child at the time, that doesn't erase the pain she caused. You don't owe them anything. Not your support, not your involvement, and certainly not your emotions. It's okay if you don't feel bad. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you someone who has been deeply wounded and is protecting yourself from further harm. They're still trying to guilt you into fixing a situation they created, instead of taking responsibility for their own failures. The fact that they only acknowledged your truth when it became their problem speaks volumes. You are not responsible for your sister, then or now. If she wants justice, that's her decision to make. You've already carried more than enough. You have every right to walk away and focus on your own healing. AITAH for picking a fight because my partner won't return sexual favors unless I do something for him first. I, 23F, have been sexually frustrated for over a week, and my boyfriend, 25M, has not had any libido for the same period of time. For context, we were on vacation for a few days, and there was some mutual sexual tension brewing. But I didn't feel comfortable engaging in sexual activity where we were staying, because there weren't enough towels. And we make quite a mess. There were only 2 towels, and one would have gotten used in the cleanup, and then it would have been one small towel for us to share after showering. I said, no, I don't feel comfortable engaging in sexual relations here. Let's wait until we get home. But I still gave him a BJ because I told him I don't want him to masturbate. So he tells me when he needs me to take care of it, and I do. So we get home, and he goes back to work this week, and I am left relatively high and dry. But I think, it won't be an issue. We'll just let him know I need it, and it'll be taken care of. Wrong. The first couple of days I could understand. He said he wasn't in the mood and wasn't feeling like he wanted to be sexual. No issue. It's frustrating, but I get it. It's been 5 days since the initial ask, and I asked again today. He said no. I feel like I got reasonably upset and asked why he can't just do this for me because it's actually bothering me. The equivalent would be blue balls. Not being able to go out in public because Ellen bricked up. I feel like he's not reciprocating the same sentiment that I give him. Key point here is that I won't masturbate either because it's a double standard if I get mad at him for it, but do it myself. So I hold us to the same standard. So I picked a fight and asked why he won't return the favor, even if he's not in the mood. Something I have done many times before. He said that he doesn't want to right now, but if I gave him a BJ, then he would be inclined to get my rocks off. This made me mad because he told me no, but then switched it up to, I'll do that for you if you do this for me. It's infuriating. And we got in an argument, and he says, I am holding it over his head and shouldn't expect him to do the same that I do for him, and that if I got him up to speed with me, then I would get what I want. I know I'm being stubborn here, but that's the last thing a girl wants to hear. I don't want to hear that if I do something for you that you'll do the thing I've begged you for all week. He's also holding it over my head that I said no when we were on vacation, and that I had my chance and said no. So I feel like I know the answer is we're probably both AH but ATA for picking a fight because my boyfriend won't reciprocate sexual favors. You're not the asshole for feeling frustrated, but the way you approach the situation isn't ideal either. It's understandable to want intimacy and to feel like your efforts should be reciprocated, but expecting your boyfriend to do something sexual when he's not in the mood can be problematic. Just as you had your boundaries during vacation, he has his now. Pressuring him, even unintentionally, isn't fair. That said, your boyfriend's response wasn't great either. Saying he'll only do it if you give him something first makes it feel transactional, which isn't healthy in a relationship. Sexual intimacy should be about mutual care and connection, not bargaining. Additionally, holding the vacation situation against you, as if you missed your chance, is immature and dismisses your current feelings. At the core of this issue is mismatched libido and expectations around sexual reciprocity. Instead of turning this into a fight, it would be more productive to have an honest conversation about how to navigate situations where one of you wants sex and the other doesn't. A healthy sex life isn't just about meeting needs. It's about understanding, respect, and balance. AITA for not letting Mill help with my confinement and insulting my hubby in the process. I, 24F, just had my first baby with my husband, 27M. And in Nigeria, we have this tradition called Omugwo, where either of our moms comes to help out after childbirth. I wanted my mom to come because we have a better dynamic, but my mother-in-law is way more traditional, and we just don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, especially household stuff. Lately, I've been really struggling postpartum. I don't like being touched. I'm super sensitive to light and sound, and everyone has respected that except my MIL. We've always had a decent relationship, just not when it comes to how things should be done around the house. A few days ago, she called to ask when she should come, and I politely told her I had already asked my mom. She lost it, saying that's not how things are done, that she needed to bond with the baby, that I was being disrespectful, lazy, and keeping her from her grandchild. I corrected her and told her she would see the baby, just not with living with us. She immediately called my husband, but thankfully, he backed me up, saying it was my choice since I was the one who gave birth. Fast forward to the day my mom was supposed to arrive, she was already being so supportive, even telling me I should just let Emile come for peace sake, and they could be here together. But I stood my ground to many people in the house. Not even a minute after my mom arrived, Emile showed up with Phil and her bags, ready to move in. I told her no, she wasn't staying here. She completely lost it, yelling that I was a bad DEL, an even worse mother, and that I wasn't giving my child what he deserved. At that point, I snapped. I told her I didn't want her here because all she'd do was criticize everything I was doing wrong while giving her son a pass for being lazy, just like she did with her husband and her other son. I told her she wasn't going to come into my home and make me feel like a maid, and that I deserved to be surrounded by people who actually love me, not people who pick and choose when to care. I also said she wasn't going to use my child as a second chance at parenting, because she failed the first time. The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. My husband, who had been so supportive, just looked so hurt and walked away. Mill looked like she swallowed a whole duck. And Phil, while understanding that I didn't want her there, said I didn't have to be so harsh. Now my sister-in-law and in-laws are blowing up my phone, and honestly, I don't even know what to do next. Atawe. You're not the asshole for setting boundaries, especially during such a vulnerable time. But your words definitely crossed a line. Postpartum recovery is tough, and you have every right to decide who supports you during that time. Your MIL overstepped by ignoring your wishes and trying to force her way into your home, which understandably pushed you to your limit. However, the way you lashed out, especially by criticizing her parenting and implying your husband was a product of her failures, was harsh and hurtful. Not just to her, but also to your husband. While he was initially supportive, hearing that must have felt like a personal attack on both him and his family. A more constructive way forward would be to acknowledge that your reaction was driven by stress and frustration. If you regret your words, you might consider apologizing. Not for setting the boundary, but for how you expressed it. Something like, I stand by my decision, but I was overwhelmed and said things in a way I regret. I didn't mean to insult you or my husband, but I need my space right now. This way, you maintain your boundary while also taking accountability for the emotional fallout. Your priority should still be your well-being and recovery, so don't let guilt push you into undoing the boundary you set.
Thanks for watching Louise Stories. If you enjoyed these wild Reddit tales, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps the channel grow, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers. See you in the next story.